Hey, what's up everybody? KaijuLou here, and welcome to another edition of the Super Game Strikers Rant. And with me today I have a very special guest. You might remember him, maybe you might, way back at the beginning of Season 1, SoulsJeff.
Hello everybody.
And SoulsJeff, will you still like to be called that, or would you rather change your name again this season? Would you like to be called Argonian Jeff? Or, speaking of, we besides this rant, we really got to do a rant video on Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
We really got to do one. I would really love to do an analysis one of like Oblivion versus Skyrim, and little comparisons and what we thought was better and whatnot. Well, anyway, SoulsJeff is still good.
Yeah, for now.
Alright then.
If it changes, I'll let you know.
I'll still call you Jeff for short, like I do like a Sean. Anyway, today's rant, we're going to be discussing the great game of Dungeons and Dragons, aka D&D for short. And SoulsJeff is with me here because he's a big D&D player as well as his own DM. And me, I've never played it myself, but I've always wanted to. I've always been really, really curious about the game. I even started picking up the books and everything, and it just looks amazing. One of the greatest games ever, especially from pen and paper, since tic-tac-toe. First came tic-tac-toe, then came D&D to hit the pencil and paper. But without further ado, let's talk about D&D. So Jeff, how D&D, it's been around for, almost over 40 years now.
Yeah, it's pretty darn old.
And so, do you remember the creators of D&D?
I know one who is really popular. It's Gary Gygax was the guy who kind of penned this all up. There were other people who helped them. I'll admit I don't know them by name.
Oh yeah.
I haven't really researched into it as much as I just know Gary Gygax was kind of like the founder with a few other people. He kind of was always at the forefront with it. He was with D&D until the beginning of 2nd edition, where he kind of like left TSR, which was the company he founded, due to a bunch of reasons. Most of them being him not getting along with some of the people he put in charge of the financial stuff.
Okay, and yeah, D&D, let's see, because there are currently 5th editions that came out already. Here's our history timeline. I believe it was 1974.
About that time,
was when the very first edition. And 15 years later, 1989, was when the 2nd edition came out. 11 years later, in the year 2000, 3rd edition. Then in 2008 was the 4th edition. And in 2014, 2 years back, was the 5th edition, which is now the current standard.
Yeah.
And unless you're an old school player, you can play still any of these editions.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
There are benefits to some editions, like 2nd and 3rd edition. 2nd's not as popular, I feel, because, well, it gets kind of clunky. It's not as uniform and organized as well as 3rd. 3rd, there's a lot more material, a lot of, like, almost as much as 2nd, but it's a lot more uniform. It's a lot better organized and stuff. Because you'll have some contradicting information and rules in 2nd, because not all the authors were coordinating with each other.
And also, too, I'm sure with every edition comes new features, new races, new classes, and updated stuff. Inflation, obviously, in the D&D world.
Well, that and sometimes they take away a lot of stuff, because...
Yeah.
I can say this after looking at all the monsters in 2nd edition. Half of them didn't need to exist.
Like I remember an old feature called THAC-O that we talked about a while back. But anyway, we'll get into that in a little bit. Next question, Jeff, how long have you been playing D&D?
About 2.5 years.
Oh, okay, so you're still fairly...
I'm fairly new compared to a lot of people. I just started off with 2nd because the group I played with, pretty commonly, we used that old edition.
And I was going to say... through these 2 years, you've been playing the 2nd edition.
Yeah. I've tried a little 5th, and I found it to be okay. I mean, I didn't, know everything about it. I'm still new to that one, because, again, I only played, 3 games of it. Didn't seem bad, though.
Yeah, because I remember last year I wanted to was when I officially started getting into and curious about D&D, and I wanted to pick up the books because as a D&D player, or you want to get into D&D, there's 3 books that you need pretty much essentially, and well, you don't really need a whole lot for D&D. You pretty much need your pen and paper, special dice, which we'll talk about in a little bit. A very good imagination, and oh yeah, you need a great imagination for this, as well as 3 books that you need. One being called, which I have here, this is the 3rd edition books, because last year I started with the 5th edition, but I couldn't buy them because they were expensive, and
oh yeah, they're gonna be expensive for a while.
And my local public library fortunately had the 5th edition books, so I was able to check them out and read them and study them and whatnot. But then last year too, around Christmas time, I went to Half Price, my local Half Price books, and they had all 3 of the 3rd edition books for only 10 apiece, so great deal. But anyway, the 3 books that you need here are the Player's Handbook, which is about character building and building your character, and the 2nd book is the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is pretty much about it's for the DM. How to create your universe, how to create the world.
Generic rules to kind of help you figure out how to do stuff.
And the 3rd book, lastly, the Monster Manual, which is the book of creatures and foes that the DM can place in his world for the characters to fight
and encounter, yeah.
And so pretty much like, you know, for just a regular player, the main book that they would need is the Player's Handbook. And the DM guide, Dungeon Master's Guide, as well as the Monster Manual, would be for the DM.
Yeah. Well, the DM would probably have all 3 books.
Oh yeah, or all 3. And
from my experience, you probably need all 3 of them.
And yeah, pretty much. And also, and like I said, back to the dice, you pretty much need like a special set of dice that you need, and which you can either find online as a set together, and or as any game store, a local game store, comic book store will sell the special dice as well. But very particular, unique shaped dice, not your average Monopoly dice. Well, it's still there, your average 6-sided die.
Currently, he's holding the Caltrop.
Yeah.
The 4-sided dice.
The 4-sided dice, or also known as the D4, which means, you know, 4-sided dice. And your 6-sided die, which is the D6, as they call it. Your 8-sided die.
The D8.
The D8. And then the D10, 10-sided.
The percentile dice.
Also the D12. The D20, hail the evil D20.
Yeah, from that John Tron thing.
Yeah, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. And also, too, did the 100 or the D100 die just happened recently, or just became a thing, or?
I mean, if you take that D10 and that percentile dice...
Because right now these are 7 different dice, and back then it was only 6 that they used, right? Or was it 7?
In the original edition of D&D, you just used D6s like for everything because that's all they had. I think they may have used the D20 for some stuff, but that was like it. Most of the stuff like was D6s. They added more dice over time, but like for example, if you took that percentile and that D10, you have 100 potential dice option rolls with that one.
Oh yeah, because sometimes too, well, I forgot too, when I was building a character last year, when you use these dice and you roll it, and you know, because you got to roll from a 1 to a 100, and you have to use these dice in order to do that.
Yeah, you just rolled like a 57. Right?
Pretty much. And and so Jeff, you started a D&D group recently,
a small one,
or one over the summer and stuff like that.
It started right at the beginning of the year, around January or winter break is when I started it. It's been doing okay, but some of the people kind of got burned out over the summer from playing like every Sunday.
Oh, okay. And how long Not to sound scary, because you know the game varies and stuff like that. And also, as well too as the number of players, it can vary.
Yeah.
It's because I didn't know that apparently it's possible to have as low as 2 players. One person can have one person is the DM, obviously, and the other one is the player or the character. And it can work. Or you can even have, Lord knows, even large party groups and stuff of up to 10 to 12 players and stuff. And it's crazy, because I remember last year I had a friend of mine in school who was a big video gamer and also a big D&D player. And he told me that, you know, on Saturdays, him and his girlfriend would play D&D, and they would have this large group gathering. It was literally like 10 to a dozen people, all on one table, playing at once. That's crazy.
That gets hectic pretty quickly unless everyone's super polite.
And he said, literally, these are like, you know, these big party games. They would last the whole Saturday. Like they would last from 8 to 10 hours. Well, of course they would break for snacks and stuff, but you know, that's how big and diverse and deep these games are. And how long would usually your Sunday games last?
Anywhere from, like, with the group I was running with, 4 to potentially 6 hours. I don't particularly love the 8 to 10 hour games all the time. Once in a while they can be great, but if you do them every week, they get really, really tiring. I've done 1 or 2 8-hour games in my group, but I don't like to have those long, giant sessions because people get worn out after a while.
Mm-hmm. Also, D&D, do you find it to be more fun or just as good as, let's say, video games, particularly RPG games? Or is there, like, you know, something much more distinct or unique about D&D than playing, you know, an online RPG game?
The D&D is kind of unique in how it is, because an RPG game can have a lot of options in it, in terms of maybe building your character or how you can explore the world, but
yeah, especially something as big as like Elder Scrolls or Fallout, you know, the Bethesda game series, 2 very huge franchises, and I don't know, even Dark Souls, I could say, is another one.
Yeah, but there's something with D&D, like the closest you could have to a D&D-esque experience in terms of like exploring the world would be kind of a Skyrim-esque game. But D&D, to me, from my experiences, has always been something that can be bigger than any video game world. You can be more in-depth and stuff too, because the choices you have in a D&D campaign can be, depending on the DM, insane. You can choose to just completely throw any sort of story out the window. Granted, doing so may anger your DM, and, well, you know, I've never had to deal with it, but I can imagine it probably annoys some people.
Yeah, because D&D, being the DM itself, the dungeon master of a game, it's a pretty big responsibility in a way, because, you know, especially just amazes me out somehow how, because, you know, I watch videos and live streams and whatnot, and how these DMs, you know, because you can create your own original story. But also, too, you know, of course, for D&D, like at comic book stores or bookstores, they have little box sets and stuff that come with a ready-to-use story. That's,
or adventure. Me,
personally, no offense to people who buy them, that's pretty much like the lazy version. If you're lazy and you don't want to make your own original story.
You know.
So, or if you're not able to, you're not the best storyteller, you know, that's a great way to get started. You know, I take back the lazy part, but
I mean, it does make things a little less difficult for the DM in the planning department, because now you can go, okay, this is the adventure module. We're just gonna run that.
But I mean, like, when I listen to live streams, or even like some of your stories, like last week when we talked, I heard a little bit of your campaign and what's been going on and stuff. And these things are like the size of novels. They're like these literally, you know, J.R.R. Tolkien, God rest his soul, you know, deep stories. You know, the lore, the side quests, side characters, main stories, you know, all these entities and deities and heroes and whatnot. It's like this, you know, it just amazes me of how big these stories get, you know. And I remember you said, you know, I remember listening to you the whole time. You said, you know, you always have this thing where, you know, you make these great stories, you just have trouble writing them in paper. Because sometimes you used to do writing on the side as well. And I don't know, that's just like a curse for a writer in a way. Where you get all these great ideas, but it's hard to put them in paper. Because, you know, you just have to describe it in this certain way.
In just the right way, yeah.
And you're just not happy, you gotta do it again, and, you know, it's an endless cycle. And but yeah, that's what amazes me about it. And but when you create your own world as the DM and you give the names for all these characters and everything, do you make these things up yourself, your own original names and characters, or do you also use like a reference to a D&D lore, a book of lore? Or something of the sort.
There's not really like a lore book to like. There are lore books in D&D, like there are novels and stuff you can read.
Because already like these books that I have, when I like skim through them or read them, they already have names of characters and these divine beings and stuff. So I was just.
I mean, with me with second, I mean, I just made up stuff. I just made up character names and stuff, or I would see a name. Sometimes you can go online and find random name generators for stuff like fantasy generator name things. Mm-hmm. So if you're having trouble making a name for a character, you can kind of go there, skim some ideas. Maybe you like the first name of this one, but then dislike the last name, so you just go and keep doing it until you find one that mixes well.
Alright. And even too, speaking of D&D players and how widely popular it was, a lot of celebrities, a lot of well-known celebrities, and even like, you know, people that you never thought in a million years would be them have played D&D or are current D&D players. Well, some of the obvious ones, you got Seth Green, Will Wheaton, and
Vin Diesel.
I was about to say that was the biggest shocker to me. And even too, they even have like they're also on YouTube if you guys want to check them out. And I'm not sure if they're televised regularly, but a channel called PAX TV. I don't know if that's still around, but they always had like these professional D&D events or like celebrity D&D where they have like a circle and all these like either internet or legit movie stars or TV stars. They would play D&D together, and it's such an amazing thing. And sometimes they even get a little goofy. They put on like the costumes of the cosplay, and you have like a whole live audience watching them and stuff and cheering for them and screaming at the reactions. Yeah. They're just great.
Two things I know that do the kind of live D&D thing is there's a thing called Critical Role now, which is pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. I've only watched bits and pieces of it, but I like it. It's a bunch of voice actors and actors who tend to do stuff. They don't dress up, but they get into character really well.
It's like the same one as the Vin Diesel one?
Vin Diesel was in the Critical Role one. That was run by Matt Mercer.
That one, because I remember like last year, which I still watch to this day. I watch that video over and over and over again because, like I said, I haven't seen a whole lot of D&D out there, but I'm like, okay, if I have to like define D&D or give it, you know, the perfect example of what D&D is and everything, I would, you know, I look at that, I point to that, and because it's a small game, it's run by Matt Mercer, as well as several voice actors and stuff, which is cool because, you know, you can tell they're all in their comfort zone because that's their jobs and careers, is portraying characters and voicing them. They all just do it so wonderfully and so naturally. Matt Mercer, you know him as the voice of Leon from Resident Evil and Chrom from Fire Emblem Awakening, as well as several million other characters. You also had Travis Willingham, Laura Bailey,
Liam O'Brien.
Was the Nerdist in there as well?
I don't remember.
Okay. And also, of all people, Vin freaking Diesel.
Made a guest appearance for one thing.
Where he was, I remember playing a witch hunter, but he did that too to help promote his movie, the Last Witch Hunter, I believe was the name of it, because it came out around that time.
Yeah.
And I remember he said witch hunter isn't a class.
Well, the thing is you can create your own classes. You can work with your DM on it, or your DM can make his own classes for his campaign. But if we were to look at like the 5th edition book, we weren't going to see a witch hunter as an option. It's more of a player. That's the thing you can do though in D&D. You can make your own custom classes and put them into the game. Just, got to be sure to balance them right, so that way they're not stupid strong and your players can't compete with another person.
Because Ben, he made it so cool. And I'm like, where is this witch hunter class at? And like
I think Matt Mercer posted it online, but he changed it to Blood Hunter now.
And I'm sure there's a lot of great D&D games out there, and this just only cuts, the surface. But best example, like I said, if you guys want to look it up, it's on YouTube. I just pretty much type in D&D Vin Diesel, and so
another thing that's pretty good is there's this show. If anyone's heard of Rick and Morty, the guy who does that is running his own little thing on a thing called
the creator of Rick and Morty.
Yeah, he's doing something called Harmon Quest. It's on YouTube, the first episode. There's more episodes on YouTube, but they're not officially being posted because the guy's doing it. He's doing it via with this one network called CISO. So if you subscribe to them, you can watch all of it. There's little animations though, kind of Rick and Morty a little style.
Oh,
not as good, but
no, Rick and Morty has grown in popularity like crazy.
And it's all comedians in the Dungeons and Dragons thing.
Oh, that's even better. Sega Sean might like that if you're listening to this, Sega Sean, who is a big Rick and Morty fan. And like I said, my trip to Wizard World a couple of weeks back, so much Rick and Morty stuff, and I've seen at least 6 guys cosplay as Rick and Morty, so it's been growing. And once again, Critical Role is a YouTube channel that shows regular D&D games.
They have a Twitch.tv channel. They may have a YouTube channel as well.
Ah, okay. All right then, cool. Now, last weekend, or a week ago, coincidentally, because I thought of doing this rant with SoulsJeff here way before this, coincidentally, JonTron, famous YouTuber, just uploaded his recent video reviewing the movie called Dark Dungeons, which is pretty much aka an anti-D&D movie, which is, this is kind of like a...
I actually did a little more research into it. It was a comic that some Christian...
Yeah, he talked about it as well.
Yeah. The movie's meant to be a parody of that comic.
A parody.
But they follow the comic...
Satire.
Yeah. But they try to follow it as closely as the original, so it's hilarious. JonTron
even showed, he compared the comic strips to the actual scenes from the movie, and it's scene for scene, matches it completely, and which is cool. But like I said, this movie... extremely ridiculous. It completely blows. It's just I just laughed.
There's so many things that they got wrong with that movie. The comic was the original source, but for example, most of the time you can build your characters. The lady making 2 characters for the 2 girls, I was like, nah.
And also too as well, they portrayed these D&D players, or also these RPG players as they call them, as kind of these devil worshipping
Cthulhu worshipping
badasses who have, in D&D is portrayed as this huge drug and alcohol fueled raid party.
Hey, sometimes that does happen. Not with my group, but I've been in one of those.
I don't know what happened.
It wasn't a rave, but there was a lot of drinking in that D&D session for my friends.
I don't know what happened behind closed doors, but still, that's a huge exaggeration what that movie portrayed, and I just took it as a comedy. Do not take that seriously. But still, nonetheless, the movie actually got me more hyped for D&D You know, it's supposed to give you the opposite effect, but I'm like, oh wow, this actually got me more hyped for it. And
I want to worship Cthulhu.
It's really funny, and if you guys want to have a good laugh, or if you love JonTron, or if you want to check it out, just YouTube JonTron Dark Dungeons, and also too, just remember to D&D is not all about LARPing. LARPing is pretty much the extreme way of going about it, because of course, you know, like any fad, any fandom, anything,
there's always, you know, that extreme.
There's always the two types. There's the normal casual fans, and also there's the ones who take the fandom really too far and, you know, sort of give it that bad image, that bad name, and people see it in a negative light. And, you know, and LARPing is not what D&D is. LARPing means live action role playing, where people portray their characters in real life. While D&D players, everything is kept in the session, everything is kept in the table. Once the game's over, you're yourself. I'm KaijuLou at the end of the day. Jeff is SoulsJeff at the end of the day. And, you know,
we go about our business.
That's what D&D is, you know. It's LARPing, you know, don't.
That's the hardcore. I want to go dress, which you can do LARPing in your own backyard or in your basement. I mean, if you want to dress up in the costume, there's nothing wrong with it, but you will get some looks in public.
And we've seen a lot of that before. And but you know, at the end of the day, you know, don't let this, you know, frighten you or turn you away from D&D, because it's not what D&D is. And yeah, and if you guys are curious yourselves or always wanted to play D&D, go right ahead, you know. Find a few friends who are interested in it, and you know, find a convenient day for all of you guys to meet up and play the game. And so like I said, you know, it's not the LARPers; those are just the extreme fandom. And so yeah, in a conclusion to this rant, SoulsJeff, do you think we should have do you think Super Game Striker should have a future D&D video?
What, we record a game?
Where all of us just record a game on the channel, and
I'd be down for that.
You know, you can DM it, since you're the most experienced, obviously, and Sega Sean is just like nodding his head right now. He's just hiding. He's like, no. So, you know, if we get him on board with that, we're pretty much set, you know, because Panda Mare would like to try it out, and yeah, so that's 4 of us right there. But that would be fun, because you know, even too, we've discussed how we wanted to in the future do like game videos besides video games, but also make board games, you know, to add more to the content of Super Game Strikers. Any final words, SoulsJeff?
Just remember, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, never drop your D4s on the floor at night and not pick them up. You will regret it.
And don't be a bard.
That's something that one can't.
Yeah. I remember that. You warned me about bards if I joined that group. But on this note, please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Super Game Strikers, the official YouTube channel of Game Strikers. And please be sure to like us on Game Strikers on Facebook. This is KaijuLou, and with me was
SoulsJeff.
Stay tuned for more awesome future content to come, and take care.
Bye.